Hello, everybody, and welcome to this special episode of ESPNcricinfo Powerplay, where we'll be unpacking a really important and interesting issue in the cricketing world. As you'd all know, women and girls have been banned from playing sport in Afghanistan since the Taliban's takeover in 2021. And after that, a number of women who were contracted to the Afghanistan Cricket Board fled into exile in various countries. Most of them have since settled in Australia. This is a story that my colleague and I, Valkyrie Baines, have been tracking pretty much since that happened. And we've spent many months, many weeks trying to track down some of these players, trying to bring you their stories and trying to really understand the issues that are affecting women who used to play sport in Afghanistan and are now trying to do the same in exile. So in these two episodes, we're going to bring you their stories in their own words.
Yes, and we can also bring you an interesting element of this story. Mel Jones, the former Australia cricketer and Cricket Australia board member, who many of you will be familiar with as one of the sport's leading commentators, joins us to relay a fascinating tale of how, while in quarantine during the COVID-19 pandemic, she got to work to help to bring many of those players to Australia.
Yes, it seems like such a long time ago, the COVID-19 pandemic, when all of this was unraveling. And for many of us, almost like a different lifetime, but it has been almost 4 years. And I think it's very important for us to recognize that in that time, while life has moved on pretty much normally for many of us, the situation in Afghanistan has continued to worsen. Just a nod to exactly what we know is going on in that country is that young girls and women, not only can't they play sport, but they can't even attend school. They're banned from much of the workforce. And they've got to the point where women's voices are not even allowed to be heard in public. And I think it's really important that we say that here so that we can contextualize where we're situating sport in this conversation. We know that as a cricket website and as cricket journalists, we're zoning in on the issue of cricket, but there's a much bigger picture at play here. And the human rights of women and girls in Afghanistan is under severe threat.
Yes, that's absolutely right. And while this story's been bubbling along for, as you say, a number of years now, debate's been reignited only recently over whether teams should boycott fixtures against the Afghanistan men's team at the upcoming Champions Trophy. Raises questions over what effect boycotts have or do not have. And all the while, we've got to remember that sport is a tiny part of all of this. When women don't have basic human rights, the argument over whether they can play sport can seem rather insignificant at times. But what you will hear is that it can give these women a voice and a platform to keep this issue at the forefront of people's minds.
Yeah, I love that you've said that, Valks, because one of the phrases that I love to use, especially when I'm explaining complex things, is that we can walk and chew at the same time. And so we can be both very concerned about the situation for women's rights in Afghanistan, and we can also be really disappointed, sad, and empathetic to the plight of those women who were playing sport to a certain level and are no longer able to do that. For me personally, coming into the story, and it's something that I wanted to say up front, it's been really confronting. I'm a brown woman living in South Africa, born into a Muslim home. And by sheer luck, I was born in South Africa and not Afghanistan. And when I look at some of the women that we've interviewed and some of the conversations that we've had, it's dawned on me that it could so easily have been me. There is very little to choose between the situation that I'm in and the situation that they're in. And I just happen to be born with a green Mamba passport and not an Afghan one. And so I really think that when we talk about this, when we look at these issues and when we try to understand what it is that's affecting these women, we also look at ourselves. You and I have been involved in sports journalism for collectively maybe, 40 years between us. And we're so fortunate. We've got professions in a male-dominated industry. We have the freedom to use our voices. We have the freedom to express ourselves. And I think that part of what we're doing here is our responsibility and our activism for these women. And I'm really proud to be able to present these two podcasts with you.
Yeah, that's right. And so I guess that moves us on to hearing in their own words. So the first interview that we can bring you is with Firuza Amiri. She told a fascinating story of her exile, what cricket means to her, and adjusting to life in Australia, having made that move, not to mention her hopes for the future. Let's take a listen.
So, Firuza, we know that you were among the 25 players contracted by the Afghanistan Cricket Board in 2021. Can you tell us a little bit about what that was like and your experience of actually being a professional player?
It was all my dreams, like when I was child, like starting like playing cricket every day that I was playing cricket, dreaming about wearing Afghanistan like shirt and represent Afghanistan in the world was always my dream. That we almost achieved it in 2020. So I got Afghanistan national cricket team. I went to a cricket camp to Kabul. Then I selected there for Afghanistan national cricket team, and then I played 1 year almost as a national cricket team player. But unfortunately, like the situation changed, and we left Afghanistan, and then yeah.
Well, it's really obvious that you've got a great love of the game and that you really enjoy playing it. Is there a little bit more that you want to say about how you enjoy playing cricket and just what the game means to you?
Playing cricket, it's like absolutely the place that you feel very, proud, and then very calm. The place that make you happy for us. Like for me, especially when I'm playing cricket, I forgot everything's happened in the world. I'm just playing. I'm happy every time that I play cricket. But especially when I was in Afghanistan, it was much, much like better, and I was more happier that because I had a goal that I'm gonna play for Afghanistan, I'm gonna represent Afghanistan, and we had like especially goals in there. But unfortunately, since we moved to Australia, and there is not like we don't know are we going to play for Afghanistan or not. But back in home was so good, and like there was like I was seeing so many girls, they were encouraging to play cricket. They were used to start playing cricket, and yeah, having fun. When we were it's like I was selected for Afghanistan national cricket team when I was in year 11 in my school, and I was seeing like so many girls, they had their bat and the ball, and they were playing cricket like rather than studying what I did. Like I was most of the time, me and my friends, like especially Firuza and one of my best friends, she's in UK at the moment. We were because we were classmates, we just escaped from the class and then go and play cricket. It was the like most happy time that we had during the playing cricket.
A lot's changed since then, not least that so many Afghan girls are not even able to go to school anymore. Can you talk us through what happened in 2021 with the Taliban takeover, and what was the immediate thing that affected your lives?
Unfortunately, it was a horrible moment for all the girls, especially for us as we played cricket. We were in social media. When Taliban, like I was living in Herat. Herat city was almost like 30 days war in around the Herat city. Taliban, there was war. And on that 30 days of like, think everything like we were so hopeless, and all the day we were crying, and then we were messaging each other, like my teammates had been there. Like we always asked what gonna happen, what we gonna do. Because like 20 years ago when my mom was in my same age as me, they saw this thing what happened when the Taliban came, and like they knew that situation, and they already told us like when Taliban came to Afghanistan, this thing's gonna happen. So there was like we were so disappointed, and yeah, after 30 days, me and my sister and my friends Firuza, we decided to go to Kabul, because when Herat fell into Taliban, Kabul still was not in fallen Taliban. It was our previous government. So we went to Kabul to find the embassy and get out from Afghanistan as soon as we can, to not be in danger. But unfortunately, when we arrived in Kabul, like Afghanistan was completely fallen to Taliban, and we couldn't get into any embassy. We stayed in Kabul for I think 10 days. We stayed in Kabul for 10 days. We tried to go to airport because on that moment some of USA like plane was still in Afghanistan, and they get like all the Afghanistan armies out from Afghanistan. But when the horrible moment in my life happened, I can never forget what happened on that day. We went to the airport, and I saw on the way that everyone was crying. All the children were like crying, escaping, like running. And there was one young boy, the Taliban shoot on him, like I think 5-6 times they shoot exactly on him. And he was there, and no one cared. Like there is a person there, and everyone was running. So that was the horrible moment that I had during the Taliban. They were in Afghanistan. And yeah, we couldn't go to any embassy. We couldn't go to airport. So we decided to go back to Herat, because Herat was a bit more safe than Kabul, because Kabul was capital of Afghanistan. And we didn't have anyone in there. And yeah, we went back to Herat. After, I think, 5-6 days I've been in Herat, my captain, Shazia, messaged us, please send us your passport. We're gonna try to get out from Afghanistan, find a way, find a country that go there. So after 5 days, Shazia, after we send our passport to them, they say if you can just travel back to Kabul, that if we find way, it's easier to everyone be in Kabul, because all the rest of the team being in Kabul. So we went to Kabul, but it was my family all was disagreed to go to Kabul, because we didn't have anyone there, and we stayed in hotel, and the hotel on that moment was so unsafe to be there. So anyway, we went to the Kabul. We went with the car, 24 hours drive, Taliban on the way to the Kabul, and we stayed in Kabul for 28 days, I think. Yeah, we stayed in Kabul 28 days in hotels. Every night, Taliban were checking the hotels, who is living in there. They're trying to find the armies, the people that are working with them, foreign countries. And yeah, that 28, we stayed in Kabul, and then after 28 days, I think we got our visa to Australia. But the trickiest thing was how we can get into Pakistan to go from there to Australia, because directly from Kabul we couldn't get out from Afghanistan, because the airport, everything was closed on that moment. So we tried to go to Turhan border, which is Kabul. People go to when they want to go to Pakistan, and then we that way was a bit more hard to get into the border, because there was 8 check of Taliban. They check every step that we go, and we have to pass some of the cities to get into that border. So I was covering all my face. I was wearing a fully hijab that covered all my face. It's there was all my family. There was drive 5 hours from Kabul to the border, and that 5 hours, I don't know, it was so scary that something may happen. I think the 7th checkpoint that Taliban will stop us was a bit so hard, man. I don't know how to describe, because they checked all the luggage. They were checking all the people, and they say get out from the car. We're gonna check everything. And yeah, finally we arrived in the border. We passed everything. We stayed in Pakistan for 14 days because there was the quarantine times. We stayed in Pakistan 14 days, and then with the army airport, I think we went to airlines, that we went to the Dubai. We stayed in army camp, Australia army camp, for 1 night, and then we moved to Australia finally in Melbourne. So it was all that happened during this time.
You mentioned just how scary that time was, but during that time when you were trying to get into Pakistan and then ultimately Australia, did you always feel that it would happen, or were you just having to take each moment as it came and just trying to get through it? What was that whole period of the waiting and hoping like?
Even the last nights that a bit being unsafe for us and being in Kabul, and every night I was dreaming that something gonna happen, they're gonna kill us, because you can see it wasn't something that they don't show. They exactly show in front of you. They kill people. Even they kill some of the volleyballist girls during that time in Mazar-e Sharif. I think they have been in Mazar-e Sharif. So yeah, there was something that we could see it's gonna happen. There was a big risk of our life that hopefully we could find some people that they are here in Australia, and we are so grateful, me and my family and all my teammates, that they help us. They give us to get out, like they help us to get out from Afghanistan. And today we are here, and forever we will be so thankful for them.
You've mentioned the volleyball players, and we also know that there are quite a lot of Afghan female football players who are living in exile in Australia. Some of them have settled there. A lot of them are very involved in the activist cause there. Would you say that being involved in sport, and for yourself, being involved in cricket and then having your passport through the cricketing connection is really what helped you and your family to get out of Afghanistan? I guess what we're wondering is whether sport and this like amazing thing that it does was actually the tool and the ticket to get you guys out.
Yes, oh, absolutely. The only things that helped us the most was our contracts, that we had the contract, the Afghanistan Cricket Board contract that we got in 2020. That helped us, that show that we are a cricketer and we are like representing a country. And yeah, that was the way that they people in here could find us from that way, and we get out from Afghanistan. Yeah, absolutely.
And what are your hopes now in terms of being able to play for Afghanistan, your playing future as a whole? What do you want to achieve in cricket now?
I think it was from when I was 15 until when I will be from 15 to 50. Always will be my dream to be player for Afghanistan, represent Afghanistan in the world, and be an Afghan player, play under my flag and everything. But beside that, I always wanted to be to play to the different leagues like WPL, WBBL. So it's always been a dream to play for these leagues, and also always want to be a cricket commentator, which I'm gonna start hopefully soon as a beginner through that. Yeah, I always want to be a commentator.
So one of the most talked about things in cricket at the moment is whether the Afghanistan men's team should continue playing. You're living in Australia, and Australia is one of two countries, England is the other, that have chosen not to play against Afghanistan in bilateral series. In fact, they've had series cancelled. There was due to be a one-off test against Afghanistan that Australia chose not to play. And we've seen a lot of public reaction to that. Some is positive and some really questions the ethics of that. It would be really great for us to know what you think and whether you think that the men's national team, the Afghan men's national team, should continue playing.
It's a very tricky question. When you ask me this question, it's I need to think about it. But as I always say in my other interviews, Afghanistan men's team always been a kind of hope and role model for us, that we were seeing them how they represent Afghanistan, because in that situation that they are gonna play is in Afghanistan, it's still they have the facilities. Actually, it's like the national cricket teams, most of them live outside Australia, outside Afghanistan. But the ones they trying in Afghanistan and playing in Afghanistan, they don't have much facilities. We always learn from them how to be they have facilities much more than us, but compared to countries like Australia, England, it's less than that. So the thing is, at the moment, I don't want to say I'm not supporting them at all. So when I cannot play for Afghanistan and represent Afghanistan, why should I support them and see them that they are playing cricket? Which it's more heartbreaking when you see the men's can do something and the women's cannot do, which is absolutely wrong things. Everything the men's can do, women's can do as well. But as a point of the countries, if it has an impact on our team, that we can put pressure on Afghanistan Cricket Board that make a women's team, always be happy that they stop playing cricket against Afghanistan. If it's a way we can start playing cricket. But well, they are in a good level, they are in a good position at the moment in the world, and they can have a very, very, if they start supporting us, they will have a big impact on our teams, because you know Rashid Khan, everyone knows Rashid Khan. Like I went to a cricket club for first day, and I said like, I was Afghanistan national cricket team player, and one of my teammates says, "Oh, Firuza, have you seen Rashid Khan?" I was like, you know Rashid Khan? Everyone knows Rashid Khan. Even every single person that knows cricket knows Rashid Khan. So I mean, they can be very, very helpful for us to play for all the women. I mean, when Afghanistan can the women can start playing sports, any sport. The women can start studying as well. It can be a pathway for everyone to, if they start supporting us, it's gonna be a way for all the women, and it can be helpful for everyone. They start playing sports, studying, because at the moment, it's a very horrible moment for Afghanistan women. They cannot studying, they cannot playing any sport, even they can't work. So sport and the other things be aside, but studying is like every human right. It's very, very basic human right. So they don't have that right. So I think if they can hear my voice from here, Afghanistan national players, please be voice of the girls at the moment in Afghanistan. I can play for like a local clubs, or I'm free. I'm studying at the moment. I'm playing sports. I can do whatever I want in Australia. But what about the women and girls in Afghanistan? They have to get married very soon. They have to have child in a very, very young age, and they don't have the right to study.
So would you say loud and clear to the national Afghan men's team, please do more for us? Is that what you're asking of them?
Yeah, absolutely. Please do more for us. Start doing something for women. I mean, you are the voice of Afghanistan. They are the most famous people at the moment. They can be a voice of millions girls. Everyone knows every single player of Afghanistan. Nabi, he is very famous. He has been as a, like, they call him as a president. So show us your president. Show us what you can do for the women and girls. I know there was always some challenges for them as well. Their family, some of them is still in Afghanistan. We don't want you be in danger. You can do as another ways to help women. Don't be quiet and see people in Afghanistan, what happened to them.
And then in terms of boycotts, and especially a country like Australia deciding not to play bilateral cricket against the Afghan men's team, would you support that? And would you say that that is an effective thing to do? Do you think it's helpful? And I guess what we're wanting to know is generally, what is your opinion of that situation?
I think it's absolutely helpful because I've seen last 2-3 nights before that England decided to do the same things. I don't know, have you heard this news or not? But England announced that they're not going to play against Afghanistan until they have the women's team. I think if the other countries start doing same things, it may be pressure. It's gonna be a pressure on SCB that they start thinking about women, start thinking about making a team for women that the boys can play as well. Because when the boys come to the men's, SCB always stand for them. Even for very small things, SCB is always there for their men's. So if this can make a pressure on SCB, it's gonna help us to make our teams as their boys can play as well.
That was such a fascinating listen, harrowing and full of hope. Next, Firdaus, you spoke to Banafsha Hashimi. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got in touch with her and a little bit about her story?
Yeah, I can. So it was actually a former colleague of ours here at ESPNcricinfo, Sharda Ugra, who came across Banafsha during the ICC 100% Future Leaders Program. And I just think it says so much about what this program is doing and who it's bringing together, because it brings together experts in the industry across a variety of fields and then mentees, if we can call them that, and links them up. So Sharda came across Banafsha very soon before the Taliban took over in Afghanistan in 2021. And Banafsha stayed in contact with Sharda and then asked for her help when her and her family were trying to escape Afghanistan. And somehow Sharda managed to get the contacts and managed to assist her and has since kept in touch with her. And when she knew we were working on the story, she put us in touch with Banafsha. And really, she's added such an interesting dimension to the conversation.
She has. Let's take a listen.
Well, welcome to ESPNcricinfo, Banafsha. We are so happy to have you here, and we want to find out all about your cricketing journey and what you're up to these days. So let me start at the beginning. Can you tell me a little bit about how you came to cricket and what level you were playing at in your home country of Afghanistan?
First of all, I was a kid, like 5 or 6 years old kid. who was just watching a television and watching a sport which calls cricket. I had no idea what was it and how they play and whatever. I think so. I still remember it was something in 2008 or 2009, something special. I think Asia Games between Afghanistan and other countries. And I was watching a cricket match. Who was on that time? Hamid Hassan were the champion. He was the champion, so everyone know him because he was super good player and good bowler. So he was my all the time favorite, and he will be my favorite forever, as but still he's my favorite. And I was just watching him, and suddenly, something come in top of my head, and I was like saying, "Okay, I think I can be a cricketer." But unfortunately, in Afghanistan, there wasn't allowed to have a women's team, which is very weird, I know. But I think so. It was almost 2 years wait to come to the cricket uh, practicing and stuff because my family were not allowed me to. They was telling me, cricket is not for women, but you are not a man. So I was like waiting for a really good chance to catch up on the cricket, and that day came in 2019, which was a really great year for me. And I started playing at tournaments, like in cricket school championships. So that were the place that I first started the cricket. Yeah, I bowled for the first time and I bat for the first time. That were the uh, school cricket championships. After that, all we were waiting for few other things, which is like a cricket national team, which was really hard to get.
Yeah. So, Banafsha, whereabouts in Afghanistan were you at school? Where did you grow up, and what kind of facilities did you have to play cricket?
So I was in Kabul. I born in Kabul, and I'm from Kabul, and I like my people known as a Tajik who really don't play cricket. So we much footballers. They like play soccer and other things.
Banafsha, can I just ask you, so the program that you completed with Sanamir that you've mentioned, where were you doing that? Were you visiting her in Dubai or in Pakistan, or where did the two of you meet?
It was online. It was online because, like, I wasn't allowed to go to Pakistan alone because, as you know, there's few things going on in between both countries, except that my family were not really not allowing me to play cricket. So how could they give me the permission to go overseas? And without that, they have the fear of they already have received few blackmails that they will kill me. So they were really afraid of something happened to me. So that's why even I was going outside, my full face would cover, and I was going to the playing cricket or even to the school and stuff. I even wearing a really big hijab on my face to people don't recognize me and don't notice me that I'm playing in cricket, and same thing, I'm going to school. So how could I just went over to the other countries, which is a difficult, honestly.
Yeah. And then you mentioned the Taliban takeover, which happened shortly after your program. At that point, we know, of course, many people tried to leave Afghanistan, and you were among those that did. Can you tell me how that happened? How were you able to get out of the country, and who did you travel with?
You were talking about 25th of August. I still remember that day, that when I got some help from Sharda Agarwal. She's one of my friends from Cricket 100 leadership program from ICC, and she trying to find out the way to came up from there. But I was a bit different type of woman. I was telling I have to go with my old team, not with myself, because without that I got the opportunity to go to Pakistan. Sanamir told me that you can come here and I will help you to get here and do the things and done, and then after you guys can work and start again your life in Pakistan. But I said, I can go to the Pakistan, but what about my team? And then after I got one email from America, because my dad was used to work in army over there in special force, but I was like hiding my all emails because I don't want to go without my team. Because the only and one reason that I was holding on to, that was my team, because I was just the only hope, because everyone get out of the country. All the people who know the ICC, they have left Afghanistan. I was just left there, so the only last hope was me. So that's why I didn't want to break their hopes that they can't go outside and they can't play anymore. So I was just waiting for a good chance, and I can say that was a really good luck, and I think I can say the magical day. And then after Mel Jones contacted me, as you know, she were a cricketer from Australia, and now she's a commentator. So she contacted me there, and then she said that she will help me. Except that I've got an email from Catherine Aldway. She told me that he's trying to help out with the 25 player who's contracted. She will needed some paperwork and stuff, which is, if I tell you, I haven't had 4 days sleep, eat, and drink. 4 days, I haven't had anything. I was still working to find out what to do and how to do, and doing the things in PDF and other stuff to send it through here. Because in here it will be a day, but in Afghanistan we're night. So it's like a different time zones, which is really difficult to deal with. But still, I tried to make it. So I got really sick, and my blood pressure was about 239, which was really bad days. And after all, we got out to Pakistan by a boarding pass, which was really not easy. That time, the Taliban was there, and I was trying to talk to the other side's people, and Taliban asked me, "You're not a woman?" He asked my brother, "Are you a woman?" And then my brother said no. Then he told my brother, "Why then she's talking behalf of you? You could talk. She's a woman. She are not allowed to talk." And then it was the really baddest memory that I ever had, because he was really mean to me, and I was like trying to do something, but I couldn't because my whole family was with me, and if I do something, they would kill me. That's the other reason as well. But after all the things, what I have done is just to make myself a bit calm and relax. And I told myself, okay, that's fine. And then after what happened, my phone ringed, and there was a song over my phone, and he was like saying, "Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah," and that was the quite funniest word that he ever said. And it was like, I was laughing about that. But now what can I do? My brother was, his body was shaking. Do you know, it was like a difficult, because they hate music, and part of our community just love music. So that was like a astaghfirullah. Now I'm trying to turn off the phone, and it was like a difficulty because my hand was shaking. I got a fare from them, and my brother was too, yelling on me, "Just shut that down." So like a stressful day all the time, and they were not allowing us to go over and cross the border. So after all, we fight too much, and then we crossed the border, and it took too long to be in Islamabad. Honestly, it was too long, because that was a car accident, something, I don't know. It was 24 or almost 24 hour, one day and one night, because you was coming from Kabul, which is a bit far from border. Then after that, all things, what happened? We get in, and then I got sick. I got sick really badly because the weather was difficult, and I was using a really difficult food, and which was really, my body was really making trouble helped my body to adjust with the different food and different weather. I got really bad sick, and then on the 8th of October, we arrived to Australia, Sydney, Australia, and then had a 14-day quarantine in Sydney, and then after we came over to Canberra. So now I'm just like living in Canberra for 3 years almost.
Right. And did you were you able to take anything with you? Did you manage to take any cricket equipment and even your contract, for example?
No, never. Do you know why? Because there were 17 checkpoints. They was checking things. Yeah, and do you know we just had if I told you, but I was just had 2 clothes, one that I wear and the other one that I just put it in the bag. It was not too much things either.
Sure. And did
They
you
were
sorry, Benafsha, did you leave with your whole family, your parents, your siblings, your
Yeah,
teammates?
my mom, 4 brothers, 3 sisters, and me, and my sister-in-law.
Okay. And then I want to ask you, I mean, you come to Australia, it's a very, very different country to Afghanistan. The culture is different, the language is different. Obviously, you've still got hopes and dreams, and, you were just a young woman at the time. How difficult was it to adjust to this new life, and what kinds of things did you have to do?
First of all, I had no English. Which was the first thing that I was focusing to learn. Second thing, that was a new area, and I had no idea what is the transport here, how to get to, like, I didn't even use a Google map before. Like, you can imagine that the lady coming from the city who really don't know anything about technology and no language skills. So if you can imagine that, how hard was that being in Canberra? Because Canberra doesn't have much people like they speak Afghani language. They're just an English people and they don't speak any of Afghani language. So it was really hard to manage where to go, how to catch up with people, how to deal with them. Because our country culture is really difficult. Like, you can say please and difficult things, they will say yes. But here, rule is rule. You can't say anything. Like, you must follow the rules, which is like a bit stressful, but much better than Afghanistan because have a freedom. You have a really great people over here, like people who support you. And except that, libraries and stuff that you can learn from, and technology is really good here. So now I know where am I and what am I doing and stuff. But before, the Benafsha is now wasn't the Benafsha was before. So it's like I'm a different person now with a different personality. Before, when I came into the Australia, I was just a lady who don't even know the word, just any word of English, and no technology skills, like no computer skills, no phone skills, nothing. But now I quite improved, which is I'm quite happy with it.
So our next interview highlights what cricket has done and can do, and how the power of the global community is so important on issues like this, as we're seeing today.
I think one of the most important things that I want to say on this interview is that we have this phrase, especially around cricket media circles, that we're part of a cricket family. And I think it makes us feel like we belong to something. But there are times when it can feel like a really hackneyed kind of expression and something that doesn't hold any water. And I've tried to find examples in, across the time I've been covering cricket of where we can really call ourselves a community. And this to me is a standout one, because it really shows what can happen when people across borders, when people involved in the game from different aspects. Shada, who we mentioned, is a journalist. Mel Jones, an administrator, a former player, a commentator. And then you had other people coming in that they knew who came in to help to assist these women to be able to leave Afghanistan. And I really think it shows the power of connection. And something that really struck me is that when apartheid South Africa was banned in the 1960s, that's another example of where you saw the global community coming together to do what they thought was right. So this has some mirror effects on that. And Mel shared a lot with us in terms of both the kind of physical, practical things that she did, but then also the emotional side of carrying these women through this journey.
So that's Mel Jones. As we mentioned at the start of this podcast, this is one of the first times she's publicly told of that operation to get these women and their families out of Afghanistan, and how it all stemmed from one phone call she received while in quarantine during the pandemic. Here's Mel.
Thank you so much, Mel Jones, for joining us. We know you are super busy and in the middle of a summer of cricket down in Australia, but we're so happy to have you on to discuss the situation with the female cricketers from Afghanistan living in Australia with us. And we're fascinated with your involvement and really want to know more about how you came to find out about these girls who needed assistance, and also how you were then drawn to help them. So maybe you can take us back to the start, I guess, 2020, 2021, and what happened there? How did you get involved?
Yeah, I had to sort of go back through the depths of my own memory about it, because it all happened quite quickly. I was actually in, it was COVID times. So I was actually in, I put it so much out of my brain, I can't remember when you do 2 weeks quarantine. I was in 2 weeks quarantine coming back from the UK summer. And I was in a hotel room in Sydney starting to think, how am I going to pass 2 weeks by myself and not go absolutely, gaga? And I got this call out of the blue. Shada Ugra, who you know is a journalist from India, and she said, "Oh, I just wanted to know if you knew any of the Afghan cricketers." And I had never had any connection with them in the past. And as soon as she said that, I knew at that stage that Afghanistan had fallen to the Taliban. It was all over the news, and I had heard about the Afghanistan women's football team through a connection of a lot of female women in football here in Australia, trying to get them out. And I sort of went, I think I know where you're going here. I said, look, I'm so sorry, I don't know any of them. And she said, well, I do. And one of the players, Banafsha, is in Afghanistan at the moment. She said, do you think you'd be able to reach out and just see if they could use any assistance or any help? And I said, oh, look, I'm happy to reach out. I said, I have no idea what I can do in this kind of situation, though. So good old WhatsApp. I've got the number, I sent a voice message to Banafsha, and I basically said, look, hi, my name's Mel. I've played and worked in cricket. I don't know what I can do, but would you or any of the players like to look at, attempting to leave Afghanistan, and I can try and look into it. And she came back through voice note as well, and she said, yes, I'll do anything. Just tell me what I need to do. And that was the start of the quarantine week, 2 weeks pretty much. And once I did that, I then thought to myself, I've got no idea. My skill set is not in any of this way, shape or form, probably beneficial to her, other than, talking about the game of cricket. So I got Dr. Catherine Ordway from Canberra University, who's done a truckload of work in the integrity of sport. I rang her up, and then a really good friend of mine, Emma Staples, who I've worked with for years and years and years. And she was my first point of call. I said, what do we do here? She said, I don't know. We've got Catherine Ordway on. And we basically set up a backyard immigration centre, pretty much working with the Australian government and the players to try and start just gathering information. And that's where it all sort of started.
Wow.
Gosh, that's quite a productive couple of weeks in quarantine.
Yes. Yeah, you could say that.
So then how do you go from that point to them actually arriving in Australia?
Oof, that's that's a whole nother story, isn't it? It's Catherine Ordway is brilliant. She's got so many connections. She had some connections with our federal government who were fantastic at the time. And there was a lot of difficulty around trying to get humanitarian visas. And immediately the government sort of said to us, there is no chance you're getting that amount of people out. And so we were originally looking at the contracted players. Now, one had already got out at on that big day. I think we've all remember the footage of people cramming the airports and the like. So 2 had already got out. So we were still looking at about 22 players, but then also administration as well, because there was a number of women working in the Afghan Cricket Board administration as well that we were looking at. And our government basically said there's no chance you're going to get all of those people out. And in chatting to Banafsha, going back and forth, we said, look, get the documents and the names of yourselves and your contracts, your playing contracts, but also your immediate family, which was a big learning curve for us as Australians, because our immediate family is a different phrase to immediate family in Afghanistan as well. And that caused a whole different conversations. But we ended up with a list of 135, I think it was, originally. And the Australian government just went, there's just not a chance. It's impossible. But by this stage, all the hopes are up that something's going to happen. And yeah, I don't know if it was just someone being down from above, just saying we need to do. I don't know how it transpired, but other than it was a lot of exceptionally hard work by a lot of caring people, not just within the government, but around on the ground in Afghanistan. There's so many amazing people that I don't think I'll ever be able to probably be face to face to thank in that situation. But yeah, we managed to get, and it was a long process in terms of once they got that, because they then had to get from Afghanistan to Pakistan and Islamabad, where the Australian consulate was, to then get on a flight to get to Australia. So yeah, there was a lot of pieces of the puzzle in between all that. But yeah, we got the players, some of the administration, and some of what we term their immediate family out.
Wow. So did all 135 get to Australia, or was it a different number?
We had, because a couple of family groups landed, and it didn't, I'm not going to say it wasn't the names that got put forward, but there was a little bit of confusion about a couple of spots. So, yeah.
So, Mel, this might sound like a little bit of almost like question to the periphery of the topic at hand, but you were involved in this, what sounds like a humanitarian effort, but at the same time you knew about it through cricket, and I'm sure you were not sitting there googling their Cricinfo profiles, but did you have any kind of idea of what level they had played at, or how they were involved in cricket, or just I suppose, was there any kind of communication around the game itself, or was it just get them out?
It was just get them out. 100% at that stage. You sort of, you're involved in cricket, so of the Afghanistan men's journey and plight, which, everyone been so excited about when they first came through. And then that part of that plight and getting ICC membership was around the development of a women's program, which, you hear about that and it excites you greatly, because that there's women in Afghanistan starting to play, and, there's a whole new history of the sport being created there. So you sort of knew that sort of peripheral. I didn't know too much more than that at the stage, other than they were starting to look at international games. I know they had a series being looked at for September of that year. So other than that, I had no idea about the standard or the sort of lengths of playing the game or anything along those lines. What then sort of dripped through in the conversations with Shazi and Banafsha and Firuza is the cricket stories as well. And more so, what probably blew me away more was, and this is, naive on my part, but, I love the game of cricket, and I can chat to you guys, I can chat to anyone, and, you can sort of get a sense of it. But just it was palpable, their love of the game. And that was one of the things that just put me on my backside a little bit. I was just, and I don't know why. It's probably quite silly of me not to think that, but it's, you start talking about the game of cricket, and it's something really so refreshing in a way. And, it was unjaded. It was just, the game itself, being able to get on the park and train and play and be part of a team and a community, that just came through and just sort of slapped you in the face when you started talking to them. And so it just energized you even more to want to allow that joy of the game to continue on. And so I suppose that drove Em and Catherine and I to make sure that we could get them out safely, first and foremost. That was the most important thing. But, if we did do that, a big part of it was that we could hopefully try and create something where they didn't lose that, because that is something, very, very special.
So Mel, we're now in a situation where they're, settled in Australia. What were the biggest challenges in terms of getting that to happen and getting them comfortable and getting them, in the community and taking part? And it sounds like cricket was a part of that, but can you just talk us through that process, that them settling in Australia?
Yeah, so pretty much once anyone landed in Australia from Afghanistan, they get picked up within our Australian government system. So we didn't really know where they would end up. We had no choice over that part at all. So a few families ended up in Brisbane. There was one in Sydney, but predominantly in Canberra and Melbourne. Once they all landed, it was they sort of get, as I said, get involved in our system. So they get caseworkers and in the our sort of welfare structure. So they're assisted with temporary housing and all those sorts of things to get them in and settled. And then it's sort of a lot of it is over to them about whether or not they wanted to stay in the locations that they found themselves. And that was, probably a conversation between the two groups too, because some of them knew each other really, really well, some didn't. But there was also, the trauma of what they'd gone through. And I think we all know that if you do go through something like that, not that hopefully we do, but you that sort of sense of comfort and support in a group would be so important. But it turned out that they've all pretty much stayed where they are at the moment. There's so many challenges. I mean, just English as a second language, a whole new culture to try and navigate. As I mentioned, trauma. And that's going to be a lifelong piece that they're going to have to, and we're trying to assist them with, but manage, which we can't even understand or fathom, parts of that. So a variety of things, and just that. I go to England 2 months of the year, and England's very much like Australia, but I get homesick sometimes. So to be ripped away without having this to say goodbyes, all those sorts of pieces of the puzzle, it was just absolutely heartbreaking. Like I can't even begin to describe sort of the pain that you can see on their faces and you can hear in their voices. To think that they might never ever get home, see family again, have that connection point to a country which they clearly love and want to be a part of.
And then, no, I guess they were also, this is the emotional side of it, the psychological side of it, but they also had to live, study, work, potentially play cricket. So how did that work? I mean, I know a lot of them got involved with local cricket clubs, and we've spoken to a couple of the players about their study plans. Were you actively involved in getting them into schools and colleges and clubs and that kind of thing?
Yeah. Again, this is Emma and Catherine in Melbourne and Canberra. So me being based in Sydney had sort of, trying to assist as much as I can, but being sort of that hands-on, physical contacts of support that these two women were the powerhouses in this instance. And it's one of the beautiful things about the cricketing community is when people hear about the plight of these women. It was amazing the people that just came through and just said, "What do you need? How can I help?" I know Em put something on her community Facebook page saying this is this situation, and all of a sudden people throughout Melbourne are offering beds and sewing machines and all these sorts of things. So Em would be driving around suburb to suburb, picking all of this up and then passing it on to the families to see what they needed. There was a lovely Jewish family in Melbourne who had a home, and they assisted them in a variety of different ways. Once they got settled, one of the families got settled there, about just navigating Melbourne and public transport and all the like. There was Olivia Thornton, who's the CEO of ACT Cricket. She was brilliant, and just as the CEO of the association, she could have handballed this to absolutely anyone, but she was front and centre in terms of the communication with clubs in Canberra and the players, and trying to help them, make it as easy as possible to get down to training, get equipment, all those sorts of things. There was some health concerns with a few of the players with teeth, so I knew a dentist. She said, "Yep, put your hand up," and all of a sudden got dentists all over the place, firing off X-rays and trying to find out connections in different cities. Clubland, Carnegie Cricket Club, they've been fantastic in everything that they did. We had a TNF, Tails Never Fails, which is a sporting manufacturing company here. Within, I think it was like a week turnaround, which is ridiculous for apparel, but the girls designed their own logo, and they produced full team kit so that they could start the Melbourne Winter Comp on time in a kit that, that was all about them being Afghani women in Melbourne. And that's, it's, like I said, it's unheard of to get apparel turned around that quickly. So it was just, I suppose that's the one side of it that just sort of fills you with hope and joy that there are just so many wonderful people out there ready to help and assist in whatever way they can.
So that's the story of how several Afghan female cricketers were able to leave their home country and settle in Australia. And once they got there, of course, things would have been a little bit difficult. It takes a long time to adjust. No matter who you are or where you come from, living in a foreign place is tricky. But once they got there and were able to kind of find some semblance of normality, their desire to play cricket did not go away. And there were growing calls for the women to be able to form some kind of representative team, whether that be under the Afghan national flag, whether that be as a refugee team in exile. Those are conversations that we're going to discuss in episode 2. But what we want to say here is that the Afghanistan Cricket Board, who are the governing body for cricket in that country, do not recognize a women's team. And as such, the ICC cannot recognize a women's team. And that might sound a little bit strange, but the ICC is a member-run organization that relies on its members to be able to provide the teams for them to then rubber stamp. And of course, there are conditions to becoming a full member. And of course, one of those conditions is that one has to have a women's team. But we know from when Afghanistan were granted full member status in 2017, one of the conditions was that status was given to them because there was an understanding that they were developing a women's team. They didn't have any women's cricketing structures at that point. And then by 2020, they did have a women's cricket camp. They did contract the women's players, as you've heard. And so the structures were being developed. As such, the ICC is an organization where once you become a full member, it's very difficult to unbecome a full member. And so Afghanistan remained full members of the ICC, despite being the only full member without a recognized women's team. The question now is how and whether and where these women can form a representative team. And that's the conversations that we'll be bringing you in episode 2. For now, what we want to just keep in mind is that the women are there, they've played cricket, they want to play cricket, and most importantly, they want to do it with the name Afghanistan somewhere tied to them.
Yes, that's right. And nevertheless, the ICC have come under more pressure in recent days, and national boards have come under more pressure in recent days to do more to help these women. In the meantime, they are going to play as an Afghanistan women's 11 against a Cricket Without Borders 11 at Junction Oval on the same day that the Australian women play the England women in the day-night test crosstown at the MCG. So that's what they're doing at the moment. And we will bring you more about that and how they're all doing now in our next episode. Thanks for joining us.